For the deserts echoed with the chants of conquest, the world was home to multicultural civilizations Zoroastrian Persia, Buddhist Central Asia, and Hindu India. These regions thrived with art, philosophy, and commerce. This was the stage for what would become the first encounters between Hindu and Islamic worlds. But around 7th century, a storm began to rise in Arabia. Following the death of Prophet Muhammad, the Rashidun caliphs launched a wave of military campaigns. Within just 2 decades, the mighty Sassanid Empire was reduced to ashes. The ancient fire temples of Persia were extinguished, and Zoroastrians became refugees in their own land. Though little known, oral traditions among the Zoroastrians hint at a forgotten alliance. As the fire temples of Persia were desecrated and Arab forces stormed the gates, a mighty Indian king, Ulkeshi, sent elephants, cavalry, and supplies westward, marking the first encounter between Hindus and early Islamic invasions. These alliance helped withstand 2 waves of Arab advances, holding just long enough for a caravan of Zoroastrian keepers to escape across the Arabian Sea, carrying their sacred flame to India, where it still burns today in the Parsi Ajiaris of Gujarat. Though the campaign began as early as 7th century with Muhammad bin Qasim's invasion of Sindh and continued for centuries, the Islamic conquest of India is often regarded as the bloodiest age in human history, marked by massacres that claimed 80 to 100 million lives, the destruction of thousands of temples, and the burning of countless schools and universities. But India fought fiercely across kingdoms over generations through both battlefield defense and cultural endurance. For an expansion so swift and unstoppable that it conquered Persia, Syria, Egypt, North Africa, and parts of Europe in under a century, the Islamic dream of Ghazwa-in, the conquest of India, proved to be nearly impossible. For nearly 1,500 years, Hindus fought to defend the land, faith, and civilization. From the Rajputs of Mewar and Marwar in the north, to the Ahams of Assam in the east, the Solankis of Gujarat, and the Parvaras of Malwas in the west, the mighty Sangamas in the south, and eventually the rise of Marathas and the Sikhs also. Hundreds of kingdoms across Bharat rose in defiance of Islamic invasion. When the Delhi Sultanate finally took hold, it looked like Ghazwa Hind might be realized, but it was short-lived. The Marathas rose, swift, fierce, and unyielding. Other Hindu kingdoms joined the fight, taking back one province after another. They shattered Mughal ambitions and reclaimed vast territories. Ghazwa Hind was crumbling. But as the Marathas stretched themselves thin in this resurrection, a silent spectator made its move: the British. Exploiting internal conflicts, they took over from both Maratha and Mughal remnants, establishing colonial rule for nearly 200 years. Yet even under the foreign chains, India resisted. The independent movement was born. When the independence movement succeeded, people of all faiths, Hindus, Buddhists, Jains, Sikhs, rejoiced in achieving Purna Swarajya. But the Muslim League leaders had a different plan. They demanded a separate Muslim nation in Muslim-majority regions, today's Pakistan and Bangladesh. When it became clear that partition was inevitable, leaders like Dr. B.R. Ambedkar and others proposed a full population exchange: Muslims to Pakistan, Hindus and others to India. They argued that Islamic ideology often placed religion above nation. They feared it would lead to future conflicts, with allegiance tilted towards external Islamic powers. History supported their concerns. Rulers like Tipu Sultan had invited foreign Islamic kings to invade India, and the movements like Khilafat had seen brutal violence against Hindus. But popular voices and political convenience overruled these warnings. The result was catastrophic. Trains arrived in India carrying the mutilated bodies of Hindu and Sikh refugees. One of the bloodiest mass migration in history unfolded. Communal riots erupted, leaving a scar that never fully healed. Pakistan, a nation was born, not for cultural identity, but for political Islamic dominance. Needed a way to sustain its foundational idea, and that idea was jihad. At the time of independence, princely states were free to join India or remain independent. Kashmir, a Muslim majority state ruled by Hindu king Maharaja Hari Singh, chose independence. But on October 22, 1947, just 2 months after independence, Pakistan launched its first jihad, a covert war. Tribal Pashtun raiders led by the Pakistan army invaded Kashmir. Over 30,000 Hindus and Sikhs were massacred. Loot, plunder, abductions, and mass rapes followed, all under the banner of jihad. To save his people and territory, the Maharaja of Kashmir sent the instrument of accession, formally joining India. In response, Indian forces pushed back the invaders. But then, under international pressure, India agreed to a premature ceasefire. A part of Kashmir remains illegally occupied by Pakistan to this day. With no cultural identity or civilizational foundation, Pakistan fell into an identity crisis. To fill this void, it turned to its only unifying idea: Islamic dominance through jihad and territorial aggression. Wars in 1965, 1971, and 1999 followed. All ended in defeat. Realizing it couldn't defeat India militarily, Pakistan launched an unconventional war. President Zia al-Haq formalized this strategy in 1980s, called it Bleed India with Thousand Cuts Doctrine. Pakistan's strategy evolved into a multi-front jihad. It used low-intensity warfare, terrorism, and insurgency. A long war fought not just with guns but with ideology, manipulation, and fear. Terror camps sprang up along the border. Militants were trained, armed, and sent across. What followed was bone-chilling and inhuman. The entire nation was flooded with slogans of jihad. There was terror jihad, the holy war of violence. Trained terrorists carried out shootings and bombings across India. Thousands died. The 26/11 terror attacks across Mumbai alone claimed 166 innocent lives. Terror strikes on Union Parliament, Delhi Red Fort, plane hijacks, and attacks on military personnel were among the others. There was cultural jihad, a war of hate against non-Muslims. The Kashmiri Pandits exodus, vandalism of temples, stone pelting on Hindu devotees, scattering glass pieces to wound barefoot pilgrims, Islamic extremists spitting into food before serving it to Hindus, believing it could spiritually contaminate or convert Catholics. Some even mixed urine into meat served to Hindu pilgrims. Acts of hatred disguised as friendly service. Then came land jihad, illegally claiming land, sometimes entire villages, then labeling it as Waqf property. Demographic aggression followed. Small groups moving into predominantly Hindu areas, gradually increasing in number, assertively displaying religious identity until Hindus were pressured to migrate. A tactic now referred to as land jihad or silent takeover. Then there is love jihad, a sinister plan where Muslim men were paid to use fake Hindu identities to lure Hindu girls, then gang rape or kill them if they refused to convert to Islam. All this wasn't just a warfare, it was civilizational targeting. Even patriotic Muslims have faced trollings and fatwas just for supporting their country. These extremists make no distinction. The centuries of pain, millions of deaths are not just echoes of the past. Crowds cheer when a radical leader says, "Give me 15 minutes," a thinly veiled call for ethnic cleansing of Hindus. It is tragic. While the original Islamic heartlands like the Middle East have embraced moderation and progress, here in the Indian subcontinent, many radicalized zombies remain trapped in medieval fantasies, clinging to hate, violence, and carrying forward the delusion of Ghazwa Hind, fueled by centuries of conquest and thus to destroy in the name of faith. And this is the world in which many Hindus live. Memories of pain remain fresh and Ghazwa Hind continues. Security checks are now a part of daily life. Every major mall, cinema, and metro stations scan for threats. Temples, schools, and flights across India face constant terror threats. Hindu pilgrim routes like the Amarnath Yatra must be heavily guarded with armed forces. And to be in India is to live under constant vigilance because the war never truly ended. And yes, India still faces many threats, external enemies like Pakistan, and internal dangers from radical Islamic groups. But even in the face of such darkness, movements like the aftermath of Pahalgam terror attack have shown the strength of India's unity. Across the nation, Muslim voices condemned the attack. People of every faith stood together against this menace, and an all-party delegation panned out across the world capitals, uniting every shade of India's politics to condemn the terror and expose Pakistan. They asked Hindu or Muslim. India replied, Hindu and Muslim. This is the soul of Bharat. We may bleed, we may mourn, but we rise as one and we strike back hard. Jai Hind, Jai Karnataka.